everyone. Ready to dive into a story that'll really get you thinking.
Oh, yeah. This one is, it's a doozy.
It really is.
And it's all based on just one single source.
Just one source material today.
It's a story so wild, you might think it's right out of Hollywood.
But it actually happened.
Right here.
Right here in New York City.
At Joe's Burger Joint.
Joe's Burger Joint.
Just picture it, the sizzle of the grill, the clatter of dishes, the murmur of conversations.
Sounds like your typical New York diner.
Exactly.
Ugh.
Just another typical morning until Melania Trump walks through the door.
You can just imagine the scene, right? Everyone's grabbing their phones.
Trying to figure out.
What's going on?
Yeah, what's going on?
And that's where things take a really unexpected turn.
Yeah, Maria Ramirez
One of the waitresses
refuses to serve Melania.
refuses to serve her.
And it's not just some, random act of defiance.
Right.
Maria's family has been hit hard by these recent immigration policy changes.
Oh, wow.
Her father, Carlos Ramirez, he's been a construction worker for 2 decades.
2 decades. That's a long time.
And suddenly he finds himself out of a job because of issues with his work permit.
Wow.
The source even mentions this crumpled rejection letter sitting on their kitchen table.
Oh, that's a powerful image.
It really is. It's a stark symbol of their situation.
Definitely. And you can feel Maria's anger, her frustration.
All coming out in this public confrontation.
And this very public confrontation.
The diner goes silent as she tells Melania about the struggles her family's facing.
Yeah, like what kind of struggles?
Her mother taking on extra cleaning jobs, her little brother getting bullied at school, Maria having to put her own college dreams on hold.
It's a powerful moment.
It is. It's like you have Melania Trump,
Yeah.
often associated with wealth and privilege, suddenly confronted with the very real consequences of policies enacted by her husband's administration.
And you have to think about the people in the diner, they become witnesses to this.
They really do. Some people are siding with Maria, others are defending Melania, a few are even threatening to call the police. What's so interesting here is how Maria uses public humiliation as a tactic.
Public humiliation.
Yeah, it's risky. It could have easily backfired.
And in some ways it does.
It does. The manager, Mike, he is furious. He's about to fire Maria on the spot
What?
when this
What?
Donald Trump himself walks through the door.
No way.
I know. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, considering Trump's public image,
You'd expect.
you'd expect him to escalate the situation.
Right. Totally.
Maybe side with the manager, defend his wife, lash out at Maria.
Exactly.
But
That's not what happened.
not at all.
Okay.
He does something completely unexpected.
What does he do?
He pulls up a chair,
He sits down.
sits down with Maria, and asks her to tell him about her family.
He asks her to tell him about her family.
He seems genuinely interested in listening to her story.
Wow, this is a pivotal moment.
It really is. It makes us rethink those preconceived notions about who Donald Trump is.
Is this genuine empathy or is this a calculated PR move?
Or maybe a bit of both.
It's a question worth pondering.
It really is.
And it gets even more surprising.
Oh, yeah.
Because he even connects with Maria on the immigrant experience.
He talks about his own grandfather,
His grandfather.
a German immigrant who came to America
Unfaced.
and faced his own set of challenges.
It's like he's trying to find that common ground.
Highlight that shared human experience.
Well, exactly.
It makes you think about the power of these personal narratives.
Yeah.
The political rhetoric fades away, and it's just two people sharing their stories, connecting on a human level.
Connecting.
Then Trump pulls out his phone and calls Tony Martinez.
Who's Tony Martinez?
He's the owner of the construction company where Maria's father used to work.
Oh, wow.
And right there in the middle of Joe's Burger Joint, he starts advocating for Carlos Ramirez to get his job back.
He's advocating for him to get his job back.
Remember how we said Maria was using public humiliation as a tactic?
Yeah.
Well, Trump uses that same tactic, but in reverse.
Okay.
He's publicly leveraging his power and influence to try and right a wrong.
And how does everyone in the diner react to this?
The entire atmosphere shifts. You
Yeah.
can feel the tension melt away. People are watching in disbelief. Some are even tearing up.
So it's like this act of unexpected generosity just transforms the entire space.
It really is. It's fascinating how a single act can have such a ripple effect, don't you think?
Totally.
The source really highlights how this moment becomes a catalyst for this whole chain of events.
We're just scratching the surface of this story.
We are.
Stay with us as we delve deeper into the aftermath of this encounter and explore what it really means for Maria, for the other people in that diner, and maybe even for all of us.
You know, this encounter in the diner It wasn't just a feel-good moment that just fades away. It
Yeah.
sets off this chain reaction,
Reaction.
ripples extending far beyond those four walls.
Almost like watching a domino effect, right?
Yes.
One action leading to
And
another,
another.
impacting the next.
And for Maria and her family,
This one afternoon,
it becomes a turning point.
a turning point.
Her father gets his job back. She's able to pursue her college dreams.
Wow.
And their story, it takes on a life of its own.
The source material talks about how the story goes viral.
Oh.
News outlets pick it up. People are sharing the video.
Of Trump and Maria.
It becomes this media sensation.
It really does.
Yeah.
And you have to think about the impact of that, especially in today's media landscape.
Yeah.
You have this single story
Yeah.
with its complex characters and surprising twists.
Challenging.
It challenges the typical narratives we hear about immigration, about the Trumps.
About the divides in our society.
Exactly.
Makes you wonder, how often do we get to see these different perspectives come together in such a raw and unscripted way?
It's rare, for sure. It raises some interesting questions about the role of individual stories in shaping public discourse.
What kind of questions?
Like, did Maria's story resonate because of its inherent power, or was it amplified because of who was involved?
Because of the Trump connection.
Exactly.
That's a really good question.
It is. It makes you think.
And it's not just about Maria and her family. The other people in that diner, they become part of this larger narrative too.
What do you do? There's the businessman initially siding with the manager. He ends up buying coffee for everyone in the diner.
Wow.
There's Carmen, the older waitress. She offers Maria support, some motherly advice.
And even Alex,
Yeah, Alex, the young woman with the purple hair.
who is initially filming the confrontation.
She ends up capturing these moments of connection and sharing them online.
It's like this unlikely group of people who might not have anything in common otherwise
Yeah.
suddenly find themselves bound together by this shared experience.
And that's what's so powerful about this story.
It is.
It reminds us that human connection can emerge in the most unexpected places, even in the midst of conflict and division.
Especially in a world that often feels so polarized.
Exactly.
It's a good reminder.
It is. But here's the thing.
What?
This isn't just a feel-good story with a happy ending.
Right.
There are some deeper questions at play here.
Like, what happens when the media attention fades away?
Right. Does this one act of kindness from Trump translate into actual policy changes that benefit other families like Maria's?
This source material doesn't really give us those answers.
It doesn't.
It leaves us with this sense of hope, but also this challenge to think critically about what real change looks like.
It prompts us to ask, what are the unseen connections in our own lives?
Mm.
Where do our personal stories intersect with these larger societal issues? And what opportunities do we have to bridge those divides, even in the most unexpected places?
These are questions that stay with you long after you finish reading the story.
They really do.
It definitely makes you think. And this story, it has another layer,
Oh, yeah.
another twist
Another twist.
that really complicates things.
This is where it gets interesting.
What is it?
It turns out Trump's generosity doesn't end with that phone call to Tony Martinez.
What do you mean?
He also gives Maria a significant sum of money, calls it seed money for her education.
Wow.
$2,000 to be exact.
$2,000.
And he even writes her a note encouraging her to chase her dreams.
Oh, wow.
It's a gesture that blurs the lines between personal connection and political maneuvering.
Right. Is this genuine compassion or a calculated move to soften his image?
The source material leaves that open to interpretation.
So how does Maria receive this gesture?
She's initially overwhelmed, of course, but she ultimately accepts the money
Seeing it as an opportunity.
to create a better future for herself and for her family.
It speaks to her resilience.
It really does.
Yeah.
And her willingness to seize an opportunity, even if it comes from an unexpected source.
Right.
And it adds another layer to those themes of second chances and the complexities we see within the American experience.
But it also raises questions, doesn't it? About the role of wealth and power, about how individual stories can be shaped and amplified by those with resources.
Exactly. It makes you think about the dynamics at play, about who gets to tell their story and how those stories are received.
And the story ends with Maria going back to work at the diner.
But things feel different now.
How so?
The place where she once felt trapped now feels like a stepping stone to a brighter future.
It's a reminder that even when faced with adversity, even in the most unexpected places, we have the power to rewrite our own narratives.
We really do.
But what does this all mean for you?
Yeah. How have these seemingly small acts of courage or connection shaped your own journey?
Think about it. What role do individual stories play in the larger conversations happening in your community, in your world?
Those are questions worth exploring.
They are. And
We've
remember,
only just scratched the surface of this story.
there are so many more layers to uncover, so many more perspectives to consider.
That's the beauty of a deep dive like this.
It is.
It sparks curiosity and encourages us to look deeper to make those connections.
And speaking of connections, this story has one more unexpected turn that really highlights the power of human interaction. Remember Alex, the young woman with the purple hair who was filming the whole thing?
Yeah.
It turns out she doesn't just post the video online. She actually befriends Maria
Really?
and introduces her parents to Carlos Ramirez.
You know, it's really something.
Mhm.
Two families, both immigrants, both facing similar struggles,
Yeah.
suddenly finding connection and support in each other.
It's the small human moments that really elevate this story, don't you think?
I agree. It really adds depth to the whole narrative.
Absolutely. And the ripple effect, it continues. Even Maria's relationship with her boss, Mike, it completely changes.
Oh, how so?
Well, he goes from this by-the-book manager ready to fire Maria
Yeah.
to someone who's actually proud of her actions.
Wow.
The source material even mentions him offering Maria more shifts and helping her coordinate her work schedule with her college classes.
It's like this whole experience softens him up a bit.
Right.
It shows you that people can change. Even in the face of conflict, there's room for growth and understanding.
And speaking of understanding,
Yeah.
remember Mr. Peterson, the retired teacher who witnessed the whole thing?
Oh, yeah. What about him?
He becomes a regular at the diner.
Really?
Often seen chatting with Maria, offering her words of encouragement and sharing stories about his own family's immigrant journey.
It's like this diverse group of people brought together by this chance encounter, and they form their own little community.
Exactly.
It makes you think about the power of shared experience, how it can bridge those generational divides and create these unexpected bonds.
It also speaks to the role of witnesses, right?
Yeah.
Mr. Peterson, by simply being present, observing, and then continuing to engage.
He adds another layer to this whole narrative.
He becomes a part of the story, even if he wasn't directly involved in the initial confrontation.
Right.
And we can't forget about the impact this story had online. People who weren't even there, who had never set foot in Joe's burger joint, were touched by Maria's story, by her father getting his job back, by the unexpected kindness from the Trumps.
It's true. The source material mentions how the video gets millions of views, sparks conversations on social media about immigration, about second chances, about human connection.
It becomes this unexpected catalyst for dialogue.
It really does. It reminds us that these individual stories, even seemingly small ones, can have a much broader reach than we might imagine.
What stories are you carrying that could have a similar impact?
What experiences have you had that might challenge assumptions or inspire others?
That's a great question for all of us to consider, and it brings us to the heart of this deep dive. This isn't just a story about one family's struggle or a chance encounter in a diner.
Right.
It's a story about the human capacity for change, for empathy, for finding common ground, even in the most unexpected circumstances.
It reminds us that every interaction, every conversation has the potential to spark something meaningful.
Maybe it's reaching out to someone who's different from you,
Or sharing your own story.
or simply being present and listening to someone else's experience.
It's in those seemingly ordinary moments that we often find the most extraordinary opportunities for growth, for connection, for making a difference.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, think about what resonated with you. What are you taking away from this story?
And remember, this is just one perspective on a multifaceted event.
Mhm.
There are always more layers to uncover, more voices to hear, more connections to make.
So keep exploring, keep those conversations going, and see what unexpected insights you might discover right in your own backyard. That's it for our deep dive today. We hope you enjoyed this journey. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep seeking those connections that make life so rich and surprising.